Hey everyone, welcome back to the Duke. Today I have with me a piece of British excellence. And I do use the word excellence deliberately because Her Excellency herself actually had one of these. Yeah, if you were to pause the video now and Google the Queen driving, you're gonna see a picture of the Queen driving one of these. Now you're probably asking yourself, the Queen got driven everywhere. But no, when she had one of these in her garage, she drove this herself. This just speaks to how much of a driver's car this is, as opposed to a car you want to be driven in. Like, this is also known as the Range Rover. Like, they don't make them like this anymore. I mean, this is the L332, which was produced from 2001 till about 2012. And yeah, there have been two models after this one, and this is still known as the Range Rover. Can you believe that this design that we're looking at now is over 22 odd years old? Like, this car was designed in 2000, released in 2001, and we are now in 2023, and I think it still looks magnificent. I think it has aged very well. I mean, this is an old Range Rover, but does it really look all that old? This is what happens when BMW and Ford come together and design a car. They should do it more often, don't you think? No, you don't think so? Okay, cool. Stay tuned and you'll see just how amazing this car is. And while I'm talking about this car, bear in mind that this is a 22-year-old design, and this very car is over 10 years old. Let's start this profiling with the rims. I think these rims belong to the 2010 to 2012 model, and I think they were fitted here to make this look a bit more modern. Yeah, let me know in the comments if I'm correct about that. But anyways, those are 20-inch mags with Pirelli Scorpion Verde tires, which are the all-season tires recommended for a Range Rover. And they're not necessary in South Africa because we don't have specifications or legislation for winter tires and summer tires. But if you're anywhere else in the world where you need winter tires, these are the perfect all-season tires for a Range Rover. Now let's get into the good stuff, the engine. But before we get into that, don't you just appreciate how you just open the bonnet lid and it just stays open because of the shock mechanism that it's got going on there? I like that little touch of luxury, and none of that having to balance the bonnet lid with that lever that most vehicles have. I appreciate just popping the bonnet open and it stays open. Now, the V8. I had a hard time trying to figure out which V8 this is. So this is the 3.6. So I concluded this is the 3.6 liter V8 because this mid facelift model did have a 4.4 and a 3.6 liter V8, if I'm not mistaken, in its diesel variant. And yeah, from what I could gather, this is the 3.6 liter turbo diesel V8. So it has two turbos, 8 cylinders, and it's a 3.6 liter pushing out 200 kilowatts of power and 640 newton meters of torque. And just listen to how satisfying the closing of this trunk is. Just listen. Yeah? Satisfying, isn't it? Yeah, the doors have a similar kind of sound. You'll hear that a bit later when we move to the inside of the car. From the front of the car, we'll now move to the back where you find that signature splitting tailgate that every Range Rover is known for. I mean, is it even a Range Rover if it doesn't have a splitting tailgate? I still don't know what the significance of the splitting tailgate is. I get its practicality. I mean, it's such a signature item of a Range Rover that even the most recent one has a backrest. So when you're sitting like that, you would have a backrest to rest on when you're sitting on your splitting tailgate. I don't know. Do people just buy it for the splitting tailgate? I think some people probably do buy it for a splitting tailgate. But for those of us who want to use it for a bit more practical use, yeah, it's quite handy to have a splitting tailgate because you sometimes just want to load a small item, like a small toolbox like I've got there, and the splitting tailgate just does that so conveniently. And if you need to move it around, you can open the lower portion of the tailgate as well. It has a nice sturdy load cover that comes with the car, very sturdy. I wouldn't load anything on top of the load cover itself, but it's quite a rigid load cover that you get with Range Rover. And yeah, that's the boot. And remember that satisfying sound I told you about that the doors make? Just listen to this. Listen. I don't know, I just find that satisfying. I mean, the rear doors have a similar sound too. I just find it, like reassuring that, yeah, I'm closed. Like, you have no doubt that this door is closed. Okay, I think we have slammed enough doors for one video. I mean, if I keep slamming these doors, people are gonna be a little reluctant to borrow me their cars when I want to profile them. So let's move on inside, starting with the driver's side. On the driver's door, I like that little piece of wood trim there. I like wood trim in a luxury car. I think it makes sense. I think if you don't have trees in your luxury car, is it even a luxury car? The seats, the driver's seat is electronically adjusted in many directions: up, down, forward, back, the backrest, the angle of the backrest, and you have 3 memory settings, so you can adjust it for 3 different driving positions, and it'll automatically adjust the seat and the steering wheel to however you had set the memory settings. You have auto lights. You can switch the lights to auto, and you have a multi-function steering wheel in your Range Rover. And here I'm just giving you the visibility that you get with the car. You can see the corners of the front of the car, big windows, thin pillars. Visibility in this car is excellent. Even out the rear view mirror, the visibility is very good. As you can see the car park from the rear view mirror. Good visibility all around. This car's ergonomics is second to none. Now, like I mentioned, it has a multi-function steering wheel, and I think this is proper multi-function. I mean, you get those steering wheels with just volume up and volume down, and they say it's a multi-function. This is multi-function, and it's even heated. That button there is to heat up the steering wheel. Remember, guys, this is a 22-year-old design. Just think of how ahead of the pack this car was. The steering wheel is also adjustable for reach and rake. I finally have a term for that. I used to say reach and angle. I still think I'm right with reach and angle. But anyway, it's electronically adjustable. There's a whole lot of electricity going on in this car. There are very few things, if anything, that you do manually in this car without electricity. I mean, Eskom would be jealous to see how much electricity is just moving around this car. Even the handbrake is electronic. Yes, 20 years ago this car had an electronic handbrake. And in the center there, those are your driving modes, for your different driving modes, for off-road, for tarmac, for snow, for gravel. Did I say off-road and gravel? But anyway, you get what I mean. You also get 2 cup holders there that you can close if you want to have a nice clean look in your center console. And there you have buttons for a lot of things. I'm just going to point out the heated and cool seats. So the seats, the front and back seats are both heated and cooled. Yeah, which I find strange, because the difference in its base trim between a Vogue and a Vogue SE is that a Vogue is only supposed to have heated seats and not cooled, but this is a Vogue and it has heated and cooled seats. So maybe it was an option that you could option into a Vogue. Yeah, let me know in the comments if I'm correct about that. And you have a reversing camera in your Range Rover TDV8 Vogue. It's not the best quality. It doesn't have those grid lines that show you where you're reversing into according to how the wheels are angled. It's just a camera that shows you what is at the back. By today's standards, you'd say it's, yeah, poor quality camera, but remember guys, keep that 22-year design in mind when you look at this car. And yeah, it has a rear view camera, you can see what's going on behind you. And it's not like you really need it because it's got quite a flat back, the rear of this car. You kind of know where the end of the car is, but in case you don't, it has a camera. And you have a glove compartment that's lined with felt, and it just falls down. It's tempered, it doesn't just fall like you press the button and it falls graciously. And you have another, I won't call it a glove compartment, this is where you keep your shuttle. Yeah, remember guys, 22 years. It has a shuttle where you can keep 6 CDs, MP3s, or even DVDs, because this car does have TV. You can play DVDs in this car. And it came with a flashlight. Flashlight doesn't work. I mean, yeah. I won't say anything. I know the Range Rover haters are waiting for me to talk about stuff that breaks, stuff that's broken. I'm gonna try to stay away from that. But yeah, it has a flashlight that doesn't work. And that glove compartment does close properly. I just didn't give it enough of a push. Yeah, it's not broken. Just take my word for it, okay? And going over to the passenger side, same story as the driver's door. A piece of wood trim in the door itself. You have a pocket without a bottle holder in the door, but that's not a biggie because you do have cup holders in the center. The passenger seat does not have memory settings, but you also use electricity to move it back, forward, up, down, etc., etc. And just look at this interior from this angle. This is a beautiful interior, y'all. This is nice. The wood is all in the right places, right kind of aluminium-like plastics going on there. You also have a sunroof. Now, this comes from an era where panoramic roofs were not really a thing. Yeah, and I think if it did come from an era where panoramic roofs were a thing, it would have one. You also have an ashtray in the center there with a cigarette lighter. You have a center console there, pretty deep one. It's very fitting to a Range Rover. It's a deep center console, and it also doubles up as like a secondary compartment there, which is a bit awkward in the way it's shaped because I don't know what you put in there. And you get captain's chairs, so those little armrests there, like chairs with, or seats rather, with armrests are called captain's chairs. So you can also change the angle of your armrest with that little thing there. Yeah, it's much better when you're sitting in the seat to adjust that, as I just tried to demonstrate. But yeah, you can change the angle of your armrest if you feel like you can't rest your arm on the center console itself there. And now for a very useless test, I'm going to sit behind my driving position for those of you who are interested in that thing. And yeah, it would help if I unlocked the car first before opening the rear. Yeah, there we go. So now I'm gonna sit behind my driving position, and there's ample room. There's plenty of room in the back seat. Like, this is a very useless test. Even for your feet, you can put your feet underneath the driver's seat there. There's plenty of foot space, there's plenty of knee room, plenty of headroom. This is a very useless test. Yeah. But yeah, I did it anyway because, yeah, for those of you who wanted to see that. Moving to the back seats of the car, the door also has a nice wooden insert there. I just like that wooden insert. I like that luxurious touch of a wooden insert. You also have TVs. No, for real, you have TVs. Like, I'm wondering, when you buy a car like this, do you need a driver's license and a TV license? Because you can watch like your SABC, your ETV in this car. As you can see, the E logo there. Yep, you have TV. So for the long trips, if you have kids in the back seat, or even if you have adults, I mean, adults watch TV, right? Yeah, you can watch TV on your road trip. So of course the front TV switches off once the car starts moving, but yeah, you can still hear the audio, and the occupants in the back can see and hear what's going on TV. Nice little touch. And remember I told you you get cooled and heated seats in the back. Yeah, so you get climate vents in the center there, and those knobs are not for the climate vent, they're for the seats. So the left and right rear passenger can heat or cool their seats, maybe for a long journey. Maybe it's a long cold journey, you can heat your seats. If it's a long warm journey, you can cool your seats. And you have AV inputs there. So if you put like an inverter in here, you could plug a PlayStation in here. Yeah, those are the kind of thoughts I have when I see AV inputs. Like, could put a PS in here and play Call of Duty while on my way to Durban or something. Yeah, just an idea. And the center seat can fold down to be an armrest with 2 cup holders if there are 2 occupants or even 1 occupant in the back. And you also have a little compartment where you can put stuff. Not sure what you'd put there. Small notebook and a pen. I don't know. I'm just thinking the businessman in the back seat of the car. Yeah, those are the kind of things you'd put back there. Yeah, so it has that armrest, cup holder, compartment type thing that folds down, and the seat itself does completely fold down in a 60-40 split. If you need the seats to fold down, if you're loading extra large objects in the boot, you can fold down the seats. And I think this is designed with pets in mind. This little net here, you'll see it just now. Yep, that net, you can hook it up there, and I think that's for if you have a dog in the back and you want to separate like the dog's compartment to the rest of the car so it doesn't bother you while you're driving or doesn't bother the other occupants. And you have 2 extra speakers in the very back pillars, which is not a very common design, but yeah, you have those 2 extra speakers there. And the sound system in here is magnificent. I think it is a Harman Kardon, if I remember correctly. I took this footage a long time ago. I think it's a Harman Kardon. I counted 7 speakers in this car and they are perfectly balanced. You don't have that overwhelming bass. It's not underwhelming when it comes to treble. It's a very clean sound system. And now we're gonna go for a short drive in our Range Rover, and you don't have to be in this car for a very long time to know why the Queen drove herself. Sometimes this car, the Queen decided, I'm gonna drive this car myself from place to place. And funny how I just said the Queen and everybody probably had one person in mind. Don't lie. I mean, I just said the Queen and you're like, yeah, I know exactly who you were talking about. Yeah, guys, this is a driver's car. It's not like the rear seats are any less comfortable or any less luxurious, but when you own a Range Rover, you want to drive it yourself. It's a very, very lovely car to drive. And with that 3.6 liter V8 diesel engine, it just hurries along. Like, it's just moving effortlessly. You don't believe you're driving a car that weighs more than 2 tons when you're in this car. Well, you will believe it when you get to the petrol station, or should I say diesel station. Yeah, you'll believe that you're driving a 3.6 liter V8 moving a 2-ton body when you get to the petrol station. But once you've got fuel in your car and you manage your finances right, man, this is a lovely car to drive. This is a very nice place to be. Like, this car has air suspension all around and it is dealing with the bumps in this road just perfectly. I don't feel a thing driving through these streets. And then when you put that armrest down and you just relax your arm on those captain's chairs, this is a very relaxing place to be. It just feels like I'm floating everywhere. It just feels just so effortless, just so relaxing, just so calm. The car is quiet, like there's like you have to listen for road noise. Like you have to be in that mode of, I'm going to review this car, I must listen for road noise, therefore you listen to it. But if you're just getting into this car and just want to get somewhere or just go for a short drive just to unwind, like, it's a very quiet, very effortless, very bump-free place to be. This is a comfortable car, but that comfort does come at a price though. So I've gone on into this video way too long without talking about things that can go wrong in this Range Rover, and this is a Land Rover, so I'm gonna get into it. So that air suspension that makes for such a comfortable, such a capable ride, that's one of the things that can go wrong in this car. So it's riding on air suspension, so that can, and depending on who you talk to, it will break at some point. And to replace it in South African rands, it will cost you about 13,000 rand per shock absorber. Yeah, about 13,000 rand. In dollars, that's about what, 800 odd dollars, one shock absorber. And yeah, just as we're hurrying along, I'm gonna show you just on the screen there the fuel consumption. So this is the average fuel consumption. I didn't reset it, so it's not like it's from start. This is what the daily driver of this car deals with on a daily basis. Almost nearly 20 liters per 100 kilometer. Almost 20 liters per 100 kilometer on average. So this is mostly city driving. The owner of this car does very little highway driving with this car. So if you're driving this around town, yeah, it's gonna be guzzling fuel. So yeah, so the expense comes in with the fuel. The shock absorbers, they're probably going to be replaced. If you own this for a long time, you're probably going to have to replace one or maybe even all the air shocks. Another thing that can go wrong with this car are the turbochargers. The owner of this car, the current owner, has replaced both turbochargers, and that's because one of them gave out. So when one breaks, it's advisable that you change both of them, because otherwise you have an old turbo and a new turbo, and they're bound to break each other. So you replace both of them. And of course, I told you this is more than 10 years old now. This car is more than 10 years old. So, and there's a lot of electricity in this car, so you're bound to have electrical problems. But to be fair, if you have the money to maintain a Range Rover, it'll take care of you really well. In this very car that I'm driving, the only electronic thing that I could find that was broken are the parking sensors. So the parking sensors in this car doesn't work. Besides that flashlight that I showed you, but that was bound to like die out at some point. But yeah, in terms of the driving aids and stuff, it's just the parking sensors that don't work. Otherwise, everything else worked fine. Yeah, so if those are minor issues for you, then this is a brilliant car to have, man. And as a parting comment, I'd just like to leave you with this thought. My opinion about a Range Rover, especially a second-hand Range Rover, is if you cannot afford to buy a brand new Range Rover, then you can't afford a second-hand one either. Yeah, if you know, you know. And if you don't know, now you know, I think. Guys, I'll leave it here. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, I deserve a thumbs up. You've made it this far into the video. And let me know what you think about the L322. Does it deserve its hype? Is it the Range Rover? Do they not make them like this anymore? Yeah, let me know what you think, guys. Otherwise, I'm out. See y'all in the next video. Cheers, guys.